Welcome back. As promised, we head to Chicago now and the Democratic National Convention and join our political reporter Jason Zimmerman, who is perched. I've been in the United Center to cover events before, Jason, and when I say you are perched high atop the United Center, you are perched very high atop the United Center. What kind of vantage point do you have from there?
Chris, we are up about as high as you can go in here. It's the penthouse level. It's 8 floors up. So I can look down here on the floor. I've been looking all afternoon for the Wisconsin delegation because I'm told they're close to the front of the stage, just off to the side. I'm trying to look down there, though, and it just looks like the tiniest little flags that are coming up to mark these states. And without my glasses on, it is really tough. So, but yeah, we are much higher up than we were at Pfizer Forum. So,
All right. Well,
definitely, though, got the view right behind me looking down.
Yeah, no question. You're going to need binoculars, not your glasses, to see that. But you were much closer to that Wisconsin delegation this morning. We saw your report on Action 2 News at 4 o'clock, some of the stuff that they were treated to. It really sounds like red carpet treatment for those Wisconsin delegates. We know Wisconsin is important, and those delegates are being treated as VIPs, it sounds like. What did you see?
All kinds of surprises this morning. This was the breakfast, the first time that all the Wisconsin delegates got to gather and get to know each other. Governor Tony Evers was there, of course, and he addressed them right off the bat. But then we had a few surprises show up, including Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. He's the running mate for Kamala Harris. He showed up to address the audience, and that really got everybody excited. The whole place erupted. Nobody was expecting him to be there. We also heard from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. He talked about the importance of the upcoming election, even stressing that he believes there's a couple of congressional districts that are in play this November. If those congressional districts get flipped, he says, you know, that could flip the entire House and give the Democrats complete control with a Harris victory in November. And that's where he's saying we could really, move our agenda forward. And that's the message he wanted to send out to these delegates. Get them all excited, because he says you got to be making those phone calls. You got to be hitting the pavement. And you're every single vote, every person you know has got to get out in November.
Jason, I'm curious if any of the Wisconsin delegates, we're seeing some video now that we're going to get to in a second with what the Republicans did today. So if we can drop out of that, there we go. Interesting. I'm curious what the delegates thought of the lineup tonight. If you look at the big speakers tonight, this evening, it's the heavyweights, right, of the Democratic Party. Perhaps in the past, it's Hillary Clinton, it's First Lady Joe Biden, and of course President Joe Biden will be speaking tonight. Timing of this happening on the first night of the convention, what was the reaction to that?
I get a real sense in talking to the delegates that they're all excited to move on from the past few months. You know, they all say, President Joe Biden, we like the job he did. And you got to acknowledge his approval numbers weren't the greatest, weren't very good at all. And I think a lot of Democrats would rather not focus on that, rather not bring that up. And they want to really look ahead to the possibility of Kamala Harris being in office and what she has to offer. Even when she's been out giving her stump speech, she always says, on day one, I'm going to do this. On day one, I'm going to do that. You know, letting voters kind of forget that she's been in office the past 3 or 4 years and had the ability to do a lot of this alongside President Joe Biden. So I think the messaging here is very clear that Democrats want a new era to begin. They've got this renewed energy that they didn't have before Harris shifted to the top of the ticket. I think a lot of them are enjoying that, and they just want to not remind voters so much about what has happened and just say, hey, this is what we can do if we move forward. And I think you're going to hear a lot of that moving forward at this convention, at least the next several nights when you start getting to some of those speakers.
Good point. The next 3 nights they will be able to define Kamala Harris. Tonight they honor Joe Biden, and then they pass the torch. We saw just a snippet there, Jason, of Ron Johnson and the Republicans. When we spoke to you at the RNC in Milwaukee, they got the expected boost. There was a big bounce for them. The problem for Republicans is it didn't last very long because of what happened with Joe Biden backing out and Kamala Harris taking over. They are now trying to get some of the spotlight. How did they try and do that today?
I think they're kind of struggling to do that at this point, at least trying to figure out a way to really end the momentum that the Harris campaign has seen since she moved to the top of the ticket. In a surprise, at least surprising to us, being from Wisconsin, there was a presser on behalf of the Trump campaign at the Trump Hotel this morning. It was given by Senator Ron Johnson and Senator Rick Scott from Florida. And Johnson, he's really hammering the Harris campaign, saying that she hasn't done a single interview, hasn't taken questions since moving to the top of the ticket. He believes her biggest vulnerability up until November are the policies that have been in place. He believes it's important to constantly remind voters that she will do the exact same thing as President Joe Biden and maybe 10 times more. So that's the message that Johnson was really trying to convey this morning. He thinks as long as it stays about the policies, Trump has a very good chance. If it moves to personalities, well, then Harris probably has a chance of pulling this out. But obviously, they want to stay on a policy message at this point.
All right, Jason, we look forward to visiting with you throughout the week there from Chicago when we can. We appreciate it. We'll visit with you again tomorrow.